Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the English Globe podcast, the show that helps you improve your English in a natural and enjoyable way. Whether you're listening at home, on the bus, or taking a walk, we're here to guide you on your journey to becoming a confident English speaker. I'm Adam, and as always, I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, Julia.
Hey there, everyone. It's always great to be here with you, and today's episode is a really important one. If you've ever felt like you understand English when you read a book or watch a movie, but when it's time to speak, you just can't find the right words, then you're in the right place. Trust me, you are not alone in this struggle, and we're going to talk about why this happens and how you can fix it.
That's right. We've met so many learners who say, I know English, but I just can't speak fluently. And it can be so frustrating, right? You've spent hours studying, memorizing vocabulary, and learning grammar rules. You might even understand native speakers when they talk. But when you try to have a conversation, suddenly your mind goes blank. The words you want to say just don't come out, or they come out too slowly, and you feel nervous, embarrassed, or even afraid of making mistakes.
Exactly. And the worst part, sometimes you might even know exactly what you want to say in your head, but when you open your mouth, it doesn't sound the way you imagined. Maybe your pronunciation isn't right, maybe your sentence feels too slow, or maybe you get stuck in the middle. And then, because of that frustration, you stop trying to speak altogether.
And that's what we want to help you with today. Speaking English fluently is not just about knowing words and grammar. It's about confidence, practice, and learning the right techniques to make speaking feel natural. So in this episode, we're going to dive deep into why so many learners struggle to speak fluently, and most importantly, how you can start improving right away.
And don't worry, we're not just going to give you boring textbook advice. We'll be sharing real-life experiences, fun exercises, and simple but effective tips that you can start using today. We want you to feel excited and motivated to practice speaking, not afraid of making mistakes.
Speaking of real-life experiences, Julia, have you ever tried to learn a new language and struggled to speak it fluently?
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I first started learning French, I could understand a lot when I listened to native speakers, and I could even read and write simple sentences. But when I had to actually speak, it felt like my brain was moving in slow motion. I would think of a sentence in my head, but by the time I said it out loud, the conversation had already moved on.
I know exactly what you mean. When I was learning Spanish, I had the same problem. I spent so much time studying, but when I tried to have a real conversation, I would get stuck on every little mistake. I was so afraid of saying something wrong that I ended up saying nothing at all. And let's be honest, you don't get better at speaking by staying silent.
Exactly. That's something every English learner needs to understand. Mistakes are not your enemy. They are part of the learning process. The more you speak, the faster you improve. And today, we're going to help you take that first step towards speaking confidently.
So, if you've ever felt nervous about speaking English or thought, I'll never be fluent, stay with us. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear roadmap to improving your speaking skills and becoming more confident in English conversations.
All right, let's get started. This version is longer, more engaging, and keeps listeners hooked with relatable experiences and motivation.
Now that we've set the stage for today's conversation, I'd like to begin by exploring in detail one of the most significant and often paralyzing obstacles that many learners face when they try to speak English fluently, and that is the overwhelming fear of making mistakes, which, in many cases, creates an atmosphere of anxiety and self-doubt so intense that learners become hyper-aware of every mispronunciation or grammatical slip-up, causing them to hesitate, overthink every word, and ultimately choose silence over the risk of error, even though each mistake is simply a natural part of the learning process and a stepping stone toward improved fluency that should be embraced rather than feared.
In addition to that pervasive fear, another factor that plays a critical role in inhibiting smooth and confident speech is a profound lack of self-confidence, which often manifests itself as a persistent belief that one's own language skills are inherently inferior to those of native speakers, or even more proficient learners. leading to a self-reinforcing cycle where the anticipation of failure discourages participation in conversations, and the resulting limited practice only serves to further diminish confidence, making every interaction feel like an insurmountable challenge that prevents learners from ever truly engaging in the spontaneous, real-life dialogue that is essential for achieving fluency.
Moreover, it is important to recognize that many learners inadvertently compound their difficulties by thinking too much in their native language, rather than transitioning to English, which means that instead of formulating thoughts directly in English, they find themselves mentally translating entire sentences from their first language into English, a process that not only disrupts the natural flow of conversation, but also introduces delays and errors, because the structure, idiomatic expressions, and cultural nuances of one language rarely have a one-to-one correspondence with those of another, resulting in speech that feels halting and less authentic, even though the underlying ideas might be perfectly clear in the learner's mind.
And then there is the issue of limited speaking practice, which, when combined with the other challenges we've mentioned, creates a sort of vicious cycle where learners, having spent countless hours studying vocabulary and grammar from books and other resources, still find themselves unable to translate that theoretical knowledge into the kind of fluid, natural conversation that comes only through repeated, real-life practice. And this lack of active engagement, whether it's due to a scarcity of conversation partners, an environment that does not encourage speaking, or simply the fear of making mistakes, further reinforces the feeling that speaking fluently is a distant dream rather than an achievable goal, even though every minute of practice, no matter how small, contributes to building the necessary neural pathways for language production.
When you combine all these factors, the crippling fear of making mistakes that leaves learners frozen in moments of potential expression, the deep-seated lack of confidence that convinces them they are not good enough to hold a conversation, the cognitive burden of translating thoughts from their native language into English in real time, and the undeniable impact of limited opportunities to practice speaking in a supportive environment, you begin to see how each element interlocks with the others to form a formidable barrier that prevents many learners from achieving the kind of conversational fluency they so desperately desire, even though the underlying knowledge of English is already there, waiting to be unlocked by consistent effort, patience, and a willingness to embrace imperfection as a necessary part of the learning journey.
What we're really saying here is that these challenges are not insurmountable barriers, but rather common experiences that nearly every learner encounters at some point. And if you can recognize that the fear of error, the battle with self-confidence, the tendency to over-translate, and the lack of sufficient practice are all natural parts of the process, then you're already on your way to overcoming them by simply acknowledging that fluency is not achieved overnight, but is built gradually, step by step, through deliberate practice, and the understanding that every mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow.
So, as we continue with today's episode, keep in mind that these obstacles are not unique to you. They are shared by countless learners around the world, and the key to success lies in understanding that making mistakes is not a sign of weakness or failure, but rather an integral, inevitable part of learning any new language, which means that every error you make, every moment of hesitation, and every small breakthrough is a vital step toward developing the fluent, confident, English-speaking skills you aspire to have.
Exactly, Adam. And I think it's important for all of us listening to remember that the journey to fluency is not a straight line, but rather a winding path filled with ups and downs, where the moments of difficulty are balanced by periods of significant improvement and unexpected breakthroughs. So instead of being discouraged by setbacks, we should celebrate the progress we make and use each challenge as a motivation to push forward, knowing that with persistent practice, a positive mindset, and a willingness to take risks, the ability to speak English fluently will eventually come, even if it seems elusive at times.
In summary, today we're exploring these interrelated reasons: fear of making mistakes, lack of confidence, the tendency to think in one's native language, and limited speaking practice, not just as isolated issues, but as parts of a larger picture that explains why so many people who have a good grasp of English on paper still find themselves struggling when it comes to the spontaneity and fluidity of real conversation. And by dissecting each of these challenges, we hope to provide you with insights and practical strategies that you can apply in your own learning journey, thereby turning these obstacles into stepping stones toward the kind of conversational fluency that will open up new opportunities in both personal and professional life. All right, listeners, now that we've discussed the reasons behind the challenges you face when speaking English, let's transition into the heart of our conversation today, which is all about practical, actionable strategies that you can implement immediately in your daily routine to build up your speaking fluency, boost your confidence, and transform your learning process into an engaging, fun, and highly productive journey. In the next segment, we're going to explore a variety of techniques that, when practiced consistently, will help you not only overcome the common pitfalls of language learning, but also develop a natural flow in your spoken English that feels almost as effortless as thinking in your native language.
That's right, Adam. And one of the first and most crucial steps is to commit to practicing every day. This might sound simple, but speaking for even 10 to 15 minutes daily can create a remarkable difference in your ability to express your thoughts in English. Because when you set aside a dedicated block of time every day to speak, whether you're narrating your actions, describing the weather, or discussing a book you've just read, you gradually train your brain to form sentences in English more automatically, much like how a musician practices scales to eventually play a full composition without hesitating over every note. This consistent daily practice not only reinforces your vocabulary and grammar, but also helps in breaking the mental barrier of translating from your native language, which is a habit that tends to slow you down during real conversations.
And speaking of thinking in your native language, another powerful strategy that we want to emphasize is to think in English rather than constantly translating from your first language. This means that when you're going about your day, whether you're preparing your morning coffee, planning your errands, or even just enjoying a quiet moment, you should try to internalize the descriptions, emotions, and even the questions that arise in your mind in English, so that over time, you reduce the delay caused by the translation process and begin to form your sentences directly in English, making your speech more fluid and spontaneous. It's like training your brain to operate in a new language context, and though this may require deliberate effort at first, with consistent practice you'll find that your mind starts to think in English naturally, much like it does with your native tongue.
Another key point in our journey toward fluency is to use simple sentences and to remind yourself that there is absolutely no need to complicate your speech with overly complex vocabulary or convoluted sentence structures right from the start. When you're learning, it's perfectly acceptable and often much more effective to keep your sentences short, clear, and to the point, because using simple language not only minimizes the risk of mistakes, but also makes it easier for you to communicate your ideas quickly and accurately. And as you become more comfortable, you can gradually build on that foundation by adding more details and complexity. But the important thing is to start with what feels natural and manageable for you. And over time, your simple sentences will evolve into more elaborate expressions without the pressure of having to get everything perfect on the first try.
Now, one of my personal favorites is the strategy of talking to yourself, which might sound a bit odd at first, but trust me, it's a technique that has helped countless learners improve their fluency significantly. Try standing in front of a mirror and engaging in a conversation with yourself about your plans for the day, recounting a recent event, or even describing a movie you watched, because when you practice in this low-pressure environment, you not only become more aware of your body language and facial expressions, which are important aspects of effective communication, but you also gain the freedom to make mistakes without any judgment, and in doing so, you gradually build the confidence required to speak spontaneously in real-life situations.
Absolutely, Adam. And let's not forget the immense value of social interaction in language learning. One of the most effective ways to break through the barriers of hesitation and self-doubt is to find a speaking partner or join an online group or language meetup where you can practice conversational English in a supportive environment, share your experiences, and receive constructive feedback, because when you're surrounded by fellow learners and native speakers who understand your struggles, you'll find that the pressure to be perfect diminishes considerably, allowing you to focus on the flow of conversation and the joy of exchanging ideas, rather than on the fear of making mistakes. And over time, these interactions will build a community of practice that can motivate you to keep pushing forward, even on the days when you feel less confident.
And there's another fascinating technique that I want to delve into, which is the shadowing technique. This involves listening to recordings of native speakers, be it through podcasts, videos, or audiobooks, and then repeating what you hear as closely as possible in real time, which not only helps you mimic the natural rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation of the language, but also conditions your ear to recognize subtle nuances and variations in everyday speech, ultimately enabling you to internalize the flow and cadence of natural English conversations. When you practice shadowing, you're essentially training your brain to anticipate what comes next in a sentence, which can significantly reduce the hesitation that often accompanies language production. And while it might feel challenging at first, with regular practice, you'll notice that your speech becomes smoother and your confidence in speaking grows exponentially.
Let's also explore how combining these techniques can yield even greater results. Imagine starting your day by setting aside 15 minutes where you practice speaking about a simple topic in English, perhaps describing your morning routine or commenting on the weather. And as you do so, consciously remind yourself to think in English rather than your native language, and focus on using simple sentences to get your message across clearly. Then, as you progress, you might integrate shadowing by listening to a short podcast segment or a piece of dialogue from your favorite TV show, pausing the audio after each sentence and repeating it out loud, paying close attention to the speaker's tone, pace, and pronunciation. And finally, if possible, schedule a regular conversation with a speaking partner or join an online group where you can engage in a live discussion. This multifaceted approach ensures that you're not relying on just one method, but are actively engaging different parts of your brain, reinforcing your learning through varied practical applications, and creating a dynamic environment that fosters continuous improvement.
I want to stress that these techniques, while seemingly simple on the surface, require dedication, persistence, and a willingness to step out of your comfort zone. It's important to remember that there are no shortcuts to fluency, and every minute that you invest in practicing speaking, whether by talking to yourself, shadowing native speakers, or engaging in real conversations, compounds over time to produce significant improvements. So if you're feeling frustrated or overwhelmed by the pace of your progress, remind yourself that even small, incremental changes, like a 10 or 15-minute daily practice session, can have a profound impact on your ability to speak English naturally and confidently.
Exactly, Adam. And I also want to add that patience is key in this process. It's perfectly normal to encounter setbacks or days when your speech doesn't come out as smoothly as you'd like. But instead of getting discouraged, view these moments as valuable learning opportunities that contribute to your overall growth. And remember that every expert speaker started out as a beginner who, through consistent practice and a positive mindset, was able to overcome the initial hurdles of language learning. So embrace the journey, celebrate your progress, and never underestimate the power of regular, dedicated practice in building your fluency.
And as we wrap up this segment, let's recap the core strategies that we've discussed for improving speaking fluency. First, commit to practicing every day for at least 10 to 15 minutes, because consistency is the foundation upon which fluency is built. Second, make a conscious effort to think in English, rather than relying on translation from your native language, as this will speed up your thought process and help you communicate more naturally. Third, use simple sentences and don't worry about using big words. Clarity and simplicity often lead to more effective communication. Fourth, Don't be afraid to talk to yourself, especially in front of a mirror, to build your confidence and get comfortable with your own voice in English. Fifth, seek out a speaking partner or join online language meetups to create a supportive environment where you can practice real conversations. And finally, try the shadowing technique by repeating after native speakers to internalize the natural rhythm and pronunciation of the language. All of these strategies, when practiced consistently, will not only help you overcome the common obstacles of speaking English, but will also pave the way for a more fluid, confident, and enjoyable language learning experience.
I hope that by sharing these techniques in such detail, you feel empowered and equipped with a robust set of tools that you can incorporate into your daily routine. And I encourage you to experiment with each method, mix and match them according to your preferences, and most importantly, to keep practicing, because every conversation you have in English is a step forward in your journey towards fluency. Remember that language learning is as much about the process as it is about the end result. So enjoy each moment of discovery, each small victory, and each challenge that ultimately contributes to your growth as a confident English speaker.
That's it for our in-depth look at how to improve your speaking fluency. We've taken the time to break down each technique in detail because we believe that understanding not just what to do but why and how it works is key to long-term success. We're excited for you to put these ideas into practice, and we're confident that with perseverance and the right approach, you will see noticeable improvements in your ability to communicate in English, opening doors to new opportunities, relationships, and experiences that come with being fluent in another language.
Thank you for staying with us through this detailed discussion, and we invite you now to take a few moments to reflect on which of these strategies resonates most with you, and consider setting up a small, manageable plan for incorporating one or two of these techniques into your daily routine. Whether it's starting a self-conversation in the mirror, joining an online language exchange, or simply making a conscious effort to think in English throughout your day, every little bit of practice counts. And over time, you'll find that the once daunting task of speaking English becomes a natural and rewarding part of your everyday life.
Remember, fluency isn't achieved overnight. It's the result of steady, continuous effort, and the small, incremental changes you make today will compound into significant progress tomorrow. So keep your spirits high, remain patient with yourself, and most importantly, keep speaking, keep listening, and keep learning.
And with that, let's take a short break before we move on to our next segment, where we'll be sharing some real-life success stories and additional tips to further inspire you on your journey to speaking English fluently. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this brief intermission.
All right, everyone, as we continue our journey toward mastering English, let's now turn our attention to some of the most common pitfalls that learners encounter when trying to speak fluently. And today, we're going to spend a good amount of time, about 10 to 15 minutes, discussing not only what these mistakes are, but also practical strategies for overcoming them, so that you can start speaking with more confidence and clarity right away. One of the issues we often hear about is the tendency to speak either too fast or too slowly, and this imbalance in pace can really throw off the natural rhythm of conversation, making it difficult for both you and your conversation partners to understand the intended message. So let's delve into that in detail.
Absolutely, Adam. Speaking too fast is a very common mistake, especially among learners who feel anxious or rushed, and when you speak too quickly, your words can blend together, which not only confuses the listener, but also increases the likelihood of mispronunciation and skipped sounds, ultimately leading to communication that feels jumbled and unclear. On the other hand, speaking too slowly, while it might give you time to think, can also disrupt the flow of a conversation, causing awkward pauses and making it seem as if you're uncertain or unprepared, which can hinder the natural back-and-forth exchange that characterizes effective communication in English. To fix these issues, one useful technique is to record yourself during practice sessions. This allows you to objectively assess your speed and rhythm, and over time, you can work on finding a balance that feels natural, ensuring that your speech is neither a rapid-fire stream of sounds nor a series of disjointed, hesitant pauses. And by doing so, you develop an awareness of your pace and learn to adjust it according to the context of the conversation.
That's a great point, Julia. And another aspect of this is to engage in exercises specifically designed to improve your timing and rhythm in speech, such as reading aloud from a script or a book at varying speeds, and then listening back to how the changes in pace affect the clarity of your message. This practice can help you experiment with different tempos until you find one that suits you best. And once you've identified that ideal pace, you can incorporate it into everyday conversations, gradually building up your confidence as you notice that both you and your conversation partners are following along more easily. Moreover, another effective method is to use a metronome or even tap your foot in time with your speech during practice, which may sound a bit unconventional, but it can be surprisingly helpful in developing a steady rhythm that mirrors the natural cadence of native speakers, ensuring that you're neither overwhelming your listeners with rapid-fire speech nor causing uncomfortable delays with overly slow delivery.
Moving on to another common mistake, many learners tend to use the wrong grammar without taking the time to correct it, simply because they're so afraid of interrupting the flow of conversation or appearing as if they're not proficient, and this fear of making corrections can lead to a persistent habit of accepting errors as part of the conversation, even when there's a clear opportunity for improvement, which ultimately hinders your ability to speak clearly and accurately. The issue here is not just about making mistakes. After all, mistakes are a natural and inevitable part of learning any language, but rather about the reluctance to acknowledge and rectify those mistakes in real time. Because when you correct your grammar, you're not only learning from your errors, but also reinforcing the correct structures in your mind, which can lead to more fluid and accurate speech in the long run.
Exactly, Julia. One effective way to overcome this challenge is to set aside some time for self-correction practice, where you deliberately review your spoken sentences, either by recording yourself or by practicing with a partner who is supportive and can gently point out areas for improvement. And when you receive feedback, try to focus on understanding why a particular grammar point is incorrect rather than feeling embarrassed about it. Think of it as a mini lesson embedded within your conversation practice, where each correction is an opportunity to solidify your grasp of the language and gradually build up your confidence in using the correct structures, even when you're in the midst of a fast-paced conversation. Another useful strategy is to make a list of common grammar mistakes you tend to make, and then create simple, clear examples of the correct usage, so that over time, these examples become second nature to you during conversations, reducing the need for on-the-spot corrections and helping you speak more accurately without constant self-monitoring.
And then there's the tendency to overcomplicate sentences, which is something I know many learners struggle with. Feeling the need to impress or trying to mimic the complex sentence structures they've seen in textbooks or on TV, rather than focusing on getting the basic message across in a simple, straightforward manner. When you overcomplicate your sentences, you often end up with sentences that are not only difficult for your listener to understand, but also for you to manage, especially when you're trying to recall vocabulary or adhere to strict grammatical rules at the same time, which can cause your speech to become fragmented or filled with unnecessary pauses as you try to gather your thoughts.
That's a really important point, Julia. One practical solution to avoid overcomplicating your sentences is to deliberately practice constructing simple sentences that clearly and directly communicate your thoughts. And once you're comfortable with that, you can gradually experiment with adding more details or combining sentences in ways that still maintain clarity and ease of understanding, rather than simply adding complexity for the sake of sounding more advanced. Think of it as building a strong foundation with basic sentences and then carefully layering on additional information once you're confident that the core message is being communicated effectively. It's much like building a house. If your foundation is shaky, the more floors you add, the more unstable the whole structure becomes. So it's essential to master the art of simplicity before trying to tackle more complex constructions.
I completely agree, Adam. And I'd also suggest that learners set a personal rule to always prioritize clarity over complexity, meaning that if you find yourself tempted to add extra clauses, adjectives, or complicated phrases that might confuse your listener or even yourself, take a moment to pause and rephrase your sentence in a simpler form. And over time, this habit will not only improve the overall flow of your conversation, but also help you feel more confident about expressing your ideas without the added pressure of trying to sound overly sophisticated. Additionally, you might find it beneficial to practice summarizing longer, more complex thoughts into one or two clear sentences, which is a great exercise in distilling your ideas and ensures that you're communicating effectively without unnecessary embellishment.
To sum up this segment, we've identified 3 major pitfalls that many English learners face when trying to speak fluently. First, the problem of speaking either too fast or too slowly, which disrupts the natural flow of conversation and can lead to misunderstanding. Second, the tendency to use incorrect grammar without making corrections because of the fear of interrupting the conversation or feeling embarrassed, which prevents the proper reinforcement of accurate language structures. And third, the habit of overcomplicating sentences, which often detracts from the clarity of your message and makes your speech more difficult to follow both for you and for your listeners. For each of these issues, we've discussed a variety of techniques, such as recording your practice sessions, using a metronome, engaging in self-correction and feedback exercises, and deliberately practicing simplicity in your sentence construction, that are designed to help you overcome these challenges gradually and effectively.
Remember, listeners, that every mistake you make is simply a step on the path to becoming a more fluent and confident speaker. By identifying these common errors and actively working to correct them, you're not only improving your English, but also learning invaluable skills that will help you communicate more clearly and effectively in any situation. The key is to approach these challenges with patience and persistence, knowing that each small improvement builds on the last, and that the journey to fluency is a series of incremental steps rather than a single overnight transformation.
We encourage you to take these strategies to heart and integrate them into your daily practice routine, whether that means dedicating a few minutes each day to focused exercises on pacing, setting aside time to review and correct your grammar mistakes, or simply practicing the art of simplicity in your speech. And remember that progress, however slow it might seem at times, is still progress, and every effort you make brings you one step closer to the kind of fluent, natural conversation that you aspire to have.
And with that, we hope that this deep dive into common mistakes and how to fix them has given you both insight and practical tips that you can immediately apply to your own practice sessions, and we invite you to revisit these strategies regularly, adapting them as you grow more comfortable with the language and celebrating every small victory along the way. Because every correction and every simplified sentence is a testament to your commitment to mastering English.
Thank you for joining us in this extensive discussion. We're confident that by taking these common mistakes head-on and working on the fixes we've discussed, you'll soon notice a marked improvement in your speaking fluency, and we're excited to continue this journey with you in the next segments of our podcast. Stay tuned, keep practicing, and remember, every word you speak brings you closer to your goal of fluency.
That's right, Adam. We hope this conversation has inspired you to view mistakes not as setbacks, but as valuable opportunities for learning, and we're eager to share even more insights and strategies in our upcoming episodes. Keep speaking, keep learning, and most importantly, keep believing in your ability to master English one step at a time.
In this segment, we're going to dive into an array of fun speaking exercises that not only serve to break the monotony of traditional practice routines, but also transform the process of learning English into an interactive, enjoyable, and dynamic experience that challenges you to think on your feet, use your vocabulary in creative ways, and build up your fluency gradually while having a great time. and today we'll explore several types of activities, from role-playing everyday scenarios to engaging in spontaneous storytelling, that can be practiced either on your own or with a friend, so that even if you're feeling a bit hesitant or unsure of yourself, you have a variety of structured yet playful exercises at your fingertips to guide you through the process of speaking English with increased confidence and natural flow.
One of the first exercises we want to introduce is role-playing, which involves simulating real-life situations in a safe, low-pressure environment. And this could mean imagining yourself in a restaurant where you not only practice ordering food with clear pronunciation and proper sentence structure, but also engage in follow-up questions about the menu, dietary preferences, or even polite small talk with a waiter. And as you progress, you can extend these role-playing scenarios to cover situations such as booking a hotel room, negotiating a simple business deal, or even making a phone call to inquire about a service, all of which help you to experience the natural rhythm of a conversation while learning how to respond to unexpected questions or statements in a way that feels both authentic and fluid.
Furthermore, another engaging exercise is to practice describing your daily routine in vivid detail, which might involve narrating the sequence of events as you wake up in the morning, prepare breakfast, commute to work or school, and interact with colleagues or classmates throughout the day. And by doing so, you not only reinforce the vocabulary related to time, activities, and emotions, but also train your mind to structure sentences logically and coherently without resorting to translations from your native language, thereby enhancing your ability to think directly in English and communicate your experiences in a way that flows naturally and is easily understood by others.
In addition to role-playing and routine narration, we highly recommend the exercise of spontaneous storytelling, where you choose a random image, a short news headline, or even a personal memory, and then set a timer for a few minutes during which you have to build a short story around that prompt, incorporating descriptive adjectives, action verbs, and transitions that link your ideas together in a coherent narrative. And while this exercise may initially feel challenging because it pushes you out of your comfort zone, over time, it will not only help you to expand your vocabulary and improve your grammatical structures, but also develop the creative ability to weave your thoughts into a story that captivates your listener, making your conversation both engaging and effective.
Another creative exercise that we believe is essential for developing fluent speaking skills is the practice of conversational games, such as question roulette, where you or your conversation partner pose a series of open-ended questions that require thoughtful answers on topics ranging from everyday life to abstract concepts. And this game is particularly useful because it forces you to quickly formulate responses, adjust your tone based on the context, and engage in a back-and-forth exchange that mimics real-world conversations, all while having fun and reducing the anxiety that sometimes comes with the pressure of speaking correctly and fluently.
And let's not overlook the value of mirror practice, which is a simple yet highly effective method where you speak to yourself in front of a mirror, narrating your thoughts, reciting dialogues, or even practicing the shadowing technique by repeating sentences from a recorded conversation or a video. And this self-reflective exercise not only helps you to monitor your body language and facial expressions, thereby reinforcing the connection between your verbal and non-verbal communication skills, but it also allows you to experiment with intonation, stress, and rhythm in a way that builds your overall confidence when you eventually transition to speaking with others in a live setting.
To tie all these exercises together into a comprehensive practice routine, we suggest setting aside dedicated time each day, perhaps 10 to 15 minutes initially, to focus solely on one or two of these activities, and then gradually increasing the duration and complexity of the exercises as you start feeling more at ease. Because consistency is key in language learning, and by incorporating a mix of role-playing, daily narration, spontaneous storytelling, conversational games, and mirror practice into your routine, you create an environment where you are continually challenged and stimulated, which, over time, leads to significant improvements in your speaking fluency, your ability to think in English without hesitation, and your overall comfort in engaging in real-life conversations.
Ultimately, these fun speaking exercises are not just about practicing a language in isolation. They are designed to simulate the unpredictability and spontaneity of everyday conversation, encourage you to embrace mistakes as part of the learning process, and help you develop a sense of playfulness and creativity in your use of English, so that instead of feeling pressured to be perfect, you begin to see every practice session as an opportunity to experiment, express yourself freely, and build the kind of speaking skills that are not only accurate, but also natural and engaging, making your journey toward fluency a delightful adventure rather than a daunting challenge.
So as we wrap up this segment on fun speaking exercises, we encourage you to choose one or more of these methods, try them out regularly, and notice how gradually the seemingly insurmountable barrier of speaking in English begins to dissolve, replaced by a newfound confidence, an expanding vocabulary, and a deep, satisfying enjoyment of the language that will ultimately serve you well in every conversation you have. Remember, the key to fluency lies not in avoiding mistakes, but in embracing every moment as a chance to learn, grow, and have fun with the language, and with time. The playful practice you engage in today will transform into the natural, effortless conversation of tomorrow. One of the most pivotal segments of our show, where we take a moment to pause, reflect, and recharge your spirit as you continue on your language learning journey. In this part of our podcast, I want to emphasize in no uncertain terms that developing fluency in English is much like nurturing a delicate plant into a robust tree. It requires time, patience, and an unwavering commitment to daily practice. And while you may sometimes feel discouraged when progress seems to come in small, incremental steps, it is absolutely important to remember that every single effort, every conversation you engage in, and every mistake you learn from is an essential part of the gradual process that eventually leads to genuine fluency. So please, allow these words to serve as a reminder that mastery does not happen overnight, but rather, it unfolds slowly and steadily through the accumulation of practice, resilience, and a belief in your ability to grow, much like how even the smallest seed, with consistent care and nurturing, eventually blossoms into something strong and beautiful.
I couldn't agree more, Adam. And if you take a moment to look back at the many inspiring success stories of people who once struggled to speak English fluently, you will notice a recurring theme of perseverance and dedication that transformed their initial hesitancy into remarkable confidence and skill. For instance, consider the story of a determined learner from a small town who, armed with little more than a handful of phrases and a burning desire to communicate, immersed themselves in every opportunity to practice, whether by joining online communities, engaging in language exchanges, or even daring to travel to places where English was the norm. And over time, that consistent exposure and relentless effort not only broke down the barriers of self-doubt, but also built a bridge to a world of opportunities, enabling them to confidently converse, lead meetings, and even give public speeches in English. And such stories serve as powerful evidence that the road to fluency, while challenging, is navigable for anyone who refuses to give up, proving that every setback encountered is merely a stepping stone toward a brighter, more articulate future.
And it is in this spirit of hope and perseverance that I want to share yet another perspective with you. Every moment when you choose to speak, even if it feels imperfect or halting, is a victory in itself, a testament to your bravery and commitment, because the journey to fluency is not measured solely by the perfection of your sentences, but by the courage you show in trying, the resilience you demonstrate in overcoming mistakes, and the steady progress you make each day, even if that progress seems almost imperceptible at times. Think of it like a vast mosaic, where every tiny tile, every word, every pause, every correction contributes to a larger, magnificent picture of success that you are gradually constructing with your own hands, And it is this process of persistent practice, day after day, that ultimately transforms nervous stutters into confident speech, hesitation into fluid expression, and doubt into self-assurance.
Absolutely, Adam. And as you listen to these stories and reflections, I want you to internalize one of the most important truths of language learning. Fluency takes time, and every minute you invest in practicing, whether through casual conversation, reading aloud, or simply thinking in English, is an investment in your future ability to express yourself freely and effectively. It is also crucial to remember that even the most successful speakers of English today have experienced moments of uncertainty and frustration along the way. And it is precisely those challenging moments that, when met with perseverance and an open heart, become the building blocks of profound improvement, instilling in you a level of determination that not only elevates your language skills, but also empowers you to face any obstacle in life with courage and resolve.
Before we close this segment, let me offer you some final, heartfelt tips. Continue to practice every single day, even on days when progress seems slow or when the words don't flow as easily as you'd like, because consistency is the key that unlocks the door to fluency, and every conversation you engage in, no matter how short or imperfect, reinforces your learning and builds your confidence. Embrace every mistake as an invaluable lesson, and view every challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger and more adept, knowing that the cumulative effect of all these small efforts is nothing short of transformative, turning tentative words into a stream of confident expression that opens up new opportunities and experiences in both your personal and professional life.
In wrapping up this encouragement and motivation section, I want to leave you with this final thought. Remember that your journey to fluency is uniquely your own. And while the path may sometimes be filled with obstacles and setbacks, it is also paved with countless moments of triumph and joy that come from every step you take toward improvement. Let the success stories of those who have walked this path before you serve as a beacon of hope, a reminder that every bit of effort is worthwhile, and that over time, you will find yourself speaking with an ease and clarity that once seemed out of reach. So keep practicing, keep pushing forward, and above all, never lose faith in your own ability to master the language, because every word you speak is a powerful step forward in your incredible journey.
Thank you for joining us in this deep and heartfelt conversation, and as you move on from here, carry these words with you as both inspiration and a call to action. Continue to invest in your practice, celebrate every victory, learn from every stumble, and know that the steady accumulation of your efforts will, in time, lead you to the fluent and confident expression you so deserve, making your journey not just a pursuit of language skills, but a profound transformation that enriches every aspect of your life.
And remember, every great journey begins with a single determined step. So let today be the day you reaffirm your commitment to learning and to yourself, and allow the spirit of persistence and the promise of progress to guide you through every conversation and every challenge that lies ahead. We are here cheering you on every step of the way, and we believe wholeheartedly that your dedication and passion will eventually illuminate the path to success, revealing to you the true joy of being able to express yourself fluently and confidently in English.
So, as we conclude this segment on encouragement and motivation, take these words to heart. Let them inspire you during your practice sessions, and know that every bit of effort you put into mastering English is a building block toward a future filled with endless possibilities and rich, rewarding interactions. Keep speaking, keep striving, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. For the road to fluency is long but beautifully transformative, and your journey, with all its ups and downs, is a testament to the remarkable potential that lies within you.
Thank you for listening, and may these reflections serve as a constant source of inspiration and strength as you continue to build your fluency, one conversation at a time.
In this section, we're going to explore the transformative power of creating an immersive English environment, a strategy that not only allows you to surround yourself with the language in every facet of your daily life, but also helps you gradually shift your internal thought processes so that you begin to absorb and use English as naturally as you do your native language. Imagine, for instance, a day where every element of your routine, from the moment you wake up and check your phone, to the music you listen to during your commute, to the books you read, and even the conversations you have with friends or colleagues, is interwoven with English, thereby turning your entire world into a dynamic language lab where every interaction, every exposure to new vocabulary, and every encounter with authentic, real-life expressions works in concert to reinforce your language skills and bolster your confidence.
That's exactly right, Adam. And one of the key elements of building this immersive environment is to deliberately seek out and integrate English media into your daily life in ways that are both enjoyable and educational. For example, consider setting aside time to watch movies, TV shows, or YouTube videos in English where you can not only listen to native speakers but also observe their body language, intonation, and the natural flow of conversation. And by doing so, you gradually train your ears to pick up on the subtleties of pronunciation and rhythm that are often missing from textbook learning, while also expanding your vocabulary through context-rich scenarios that are far more engaging than isolated grammar drills.
Absolutely, Julia. And beyond passive listening, it's also essential to make your environment as interactive as possible by, for instance, changing the language settings on your devices, reading articles or books in English, subscribing to English newsletters, and even labeling objects around your home with sticky notes in English so that every time you interact with these items, you're prompted to recall their names and functions in the target language, thereby transforming ordinary moments into micro-learning sessions that cumulatively build your fluency and reduce the reliance on translation from your native tongue.
And let's not overlook the social dimension of immersion, which can be incredibly powerful. By joining online communities, participating in language exchange meetups, or even following social media accounts that are dedicated to English language learning or that share content in English on topics you're passionate about, you're not only exposing yourself to the language in a variety of contexts, but also engaging in interactive conversations where you can practice responding in real time, ask questions, and receive immediate feedback, all of which are invaluable for building both competence and confidence in a supportive, real-world setting.
Moreover, an immersive environment isn't confined solely to external inputs. It also involves an internal shift in mindset, where you consciously train yourself to think in English rather than automatically reverting to your native language. This might involve, for instance, taking a few moments during your day to narrate your actions or describe your surroundings internally in English, which, though it may seem challenging at first, eventually helps rewire your thought processes so that you start processing information and formulating sentences directly in English, thus significantly reducing the delay and hesitancy that often plague learners when they have to translate ideas on the fly.
I completely agree, Adam. And I'd also like to add that incorporating regular reflection on your progress is an integral part of creating this immersive atmosphere. By keeping a daily or weekly journal in English, where you not only record new words and expressions, but also reflect on the challenges you've encountered and the successes you've celebrated, you create a personalized archive of your learning journey that not only motivates you to keep pushing forward, but also provides concrete evidence of how far you've come, reinforcing the idea that every exposure, every conversation, and every little mistake is a stepping stone toward achieving true fluency.
And let's consider the role of technology in this process, which can be a powerful ally in your quest for immersion. From language learning apps that offer interactive exercises and real-time conversation practice, to podcasts like ours that delve into the nuances of speaking English fluently, to even virtual reality platforms where you can simulate real-life scenarios in a controlled, yet realistic environment, technology offers an array of tools that, when combined with your own proactive efforts, can make the process of learning feel both seamless and deeply integrated into your daily routine, thereby bridging the gap between structured study and spontaneous, natural conversation.
Indeed, The beauty of creating an immersive English environment lies in its flexibility and adaptability. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, and you have the freedom to tailor your immersive experience to your unique interests and daily schedule. Whether that means dedicating your morning coffee time to listening to a short podcast in English, spending your lunch break reading an article on a topic you love, or even transforming your leisure time into an opportunity to watch your favorite TV series in English, all of which contribute to a rich, layered exposure that steadily builds your language skills in a way that feels both organic and deeply personal.
To sum up, building an immersive English environment is about weaving the language into the fabric of your everyday life in as many meaningful ways as possible. It's about recognizing that every interaction, every piece of media, and every moment of reflection is a chance to practice, to learn, and to grow as an English speaker. And while the process may require deliberate effort and a willingness to step outside of your comfort zone, the rewards, increased fluency, greater confidence, and a more natural, instinctive command of the language, are well worth the investment, making your journey not only more effective, but also far more enjoyable and sustainable in the long run.
So as we conclude this segment on creating an immersive English environment, we encourage you to take these ideas to heart and experiment with different ways of integrating English into your daily routine, remembering that the more you expose yourself to the language in varied and engaging contexts, the faster you will find yourself thinking, speaking, and even dreaming in English, and ultimately, the more confident and fluent you will become in every conversation you have.
Thank you for joining us in this in-depth exploration of how to transform your surroundings into a living, breathing English learning experience. And we hope that by embracing these strategies, you'll not only accelerate your language acquisition, but also discover a renewed sense of excitement and possibility as you unlock the full potential of your English-speaking abilities.
Keep experimenting, stay curious, and let every day be a new opportunity to immerse yourself in English, because the journey to fluency is as much about creating the right environment as it is about practice and persistence. And we're confident that with each step you take, you'll move ever closer to speaking English as naturally and confidently as you envision. As we begin to draw this enlightening session to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on the many key points we've discussed today. From understanding why fluency challenges arise, to exploring a wide range of practical strategies, from daily practice and thinking in English, to using simple sentences, speaking to yourself, finding a partner, and employing the shadowing technique that are designed to transform your speaking skills. We've also delved into common pitfalls such as speaking too fast or too slowly, grammatical missteps, and overcomplicating sentences, and discussed practical ways to correct them, all while underscoring the vital importance of continuous practice, persistence, and the belief that every mistake is merely a stepping stone toward greater fluency.
That's right, Julia. And as we wrap up this episode, we want you to remember that every conversation you have in English, whether it's a quiet moment spent talking to yourself in the mirror or a lively discussion with a friend, counts as progress. So we encourage you to take what you've learned today and put it into practice immediately after this episode ends. Every time you choose to speak, you are building the skills and confidence that will eventually allow you to express your thoughts more fluidly and naturally. And it's this commitment to regular practice that will, over time, unlock your full potential as an English speaker.
Before we sign off, let's quickly summarize the main points from today's episode. First, we explored the reasons behind the common struggle of speaking English fluently and acknowledged that fear, lack of confidence, and overthinking in your native language can slow down your progress. Then, we provided a comprehensive set of strategies, including daily speaking practice, thinking directly in English, and engaging in fun exercises to help you overcome these hurdles. And we looked at common mistakes and shared actionable tips on how to fix them, all with the goal of transforming your language learning journey into one filled with gradual but steady progress.
We also emphasized that fluency is not achieved overnight. It's a marathon of persistence, patience, and continual effort. So as you step away from today's session, we invite you to incorporate even a small moment of practice into your daily routine. Whether that means speaking out loud about your day, shadowing a favorite podcast, or simply recording yourself and listening back to identify areas of improvement, because each small step you take today will build into the robust, fluent communication skills you aspire to achieve.
Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us today on the English Globe podcast and for being part of this incredible journey toward mastering English. Your dedication to learning and your willingness to embrace every challenge with optimism and persistence truly inspire us. And we are honored to share these insights and experiences with you as you continue to grow and improve.
As we conclude this episode, we invite you to stay tuned for our next installment, where we'll continue to delve deeper into more advanced techniques and share even more success stories, practical tips, and motivational insights that will help you move one step closer to speaking English fluently, with confidence and ease. Until then, keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and remember that every word you speak is a step forward on your journey to fluency.
Does this structure look good to you? If you have any thoughts or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. For now, thank you once again for your time and attention. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a comment or review, and join us next time as we continue exploring the wonderful world of English learning. Take care and happy speaking.